Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
What's going on, everybody? It is Motivational Monday. Yes, I want to let you know this. I know I call the show Motivational Monday, and my goal is to motivate you to be a better person, to motivate you to be stronger and use the tools and use the power that's within you that God has given us through his son, Jesus Christ. So that's why I named the show Motivational Monday, and I try to motivate you going into the week. But let's be clear on something. Let me set this straight. Let me set this right from the beginning. We live in a culture that celebrate motivations, quotes, videos, speeches, moments that make you feel like you can take over the world. But here's the problem. A lot of people are not using motivation to build their life. They're using motivation to hide. They are using motivation to escape the truth about their life. And that's why this message matters today. Motivation isn't a band-aid. It won't heal what you refuse to fix. And today, we're going to expose that. Not to tear you down. No, we're not going to do that. But to build you correctly. Because if you keep using motivation the wrong way, you will keep restarting instead of rebuilding. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. This is Motivational Monday. Go tell somebody to tune in. Go get your pencils. Go get your paper. Because this show is going to be heavy and it's going to have the tools you need so that you can have correct and use it correctly motivation.
Join us on this heavenly journey, one song at a time, Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown. How many of y'all motivated out there to do the right thing and to do it right? How many of you out there are motivated to be disciplined? I am. But I'm going to tell you, I was once one of those ones who wanted to go to a conference to hear a motivational speech, to go on YouTube, look at some, man, I'm going to get motivated. But not knowing that motivation I got for the moment couldn't fix what I refuse to fix. But the truth nobody wants to say. Let's go straight to it. Motivation has been sold as the key. But for many people, it's a mask. It make you feel like you're progressing without requiring you to actually change. And research back this up, people. Study shows that your intentions to do something only accounts for about 28% of whether you actually follow through. Let that sit for a moment. That means over 70% of your results have nothing to do with how you feel. It has nothing to do with how motivated you feel. So you can feel ready, you can feel focused, you can feel inspired, and still not execute. That's why some people try to use motivation like a band-aid, covering inconsistent instead of correcting it. Because feelings is not building. Let me say that again. Feelings is not building. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
You're riding the waves of faith and grace on Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise, and this is Motivational Monday. And again, motivation isn't a band-aid for what you refuse to fix. Motivation can't heal what you refuse to fix. It can't. Let me tell you what motivation is not. Let's define this so that there's no confusion. Motivation is not discipline. Motivation is not consistency. Motivation is not structure. Motivation is not commitment. And the most important of all, motivation is not identity. Motivation is emotional energy, and emotional energy fluctuate. Discipline now is structured behavior, and structured behavior produces results. This is where people get it wrong. They try to use something unstable to produce something permanent. That's like putting a band-aid on something that actually needs to be rebuilt. That would never work. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wave Radio.
This is the Afternoon Praise. I hope your Monday is going well. Man, how was church service yesterday? I should have asked y'all that in the beginning. Yesterday was Resurrection Sunday. And I know the churches were packed. I know they had multiple services, but I hope you got something out of there that can help you heal, that can help you build your life, and that you can use motivation to pull you forward, you know? But again, motivation is not a band-aid. But let's go deeper. Motivation becomes dangerous when it replaces responsibility. You hype yourself up, but don't change your systems. Now you're operating in what psychology calls the intention behavior gap. You intend to do the work, but you don't. And here's the real danger. You still feel like you're making progress because you were emotionally engaged. So now you're not just inconsistent, you're deceived. And deception is dangerous because you don't even know you're stuck. That's what happened when you treat motivation like a band-aid. You cover the issue, but never heal it. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wave Radio.
This is the Afternoon Praise, and this is Motivational Monday, and we are talking about motivation is not a band-aid for something you refuse to fix. Now, why people lean no motivation? I'm glad you asked. Let's expose the root honesty. People lean no motivation because it gives the illusion of progress without the requirement of discipline. And there's science behind that. Humans operate with something called effective forecasting error. Meaning, you believe your future self will feel more ready than you do right now. So you delay actions, believing tomorrow will be different. But tomorrow shows up and it's the same you, same habits, same patterns, same resistance. So now motivation becomes a cycle of delay, a temporary cover, not a real solution. People, we got to build ourselves. We got to become. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown. Let's talk about the pattern of inconsistency. Let's break the loop all the way down. You get motivated. You start strong. You underestimate the process. Resistance shows up. You fall off. You push everything to tomorrow. And here's the truth. Tomorrow has become your storage unit for unexecuted intentions. That's where dreams go to sit, not die immediately, but slowly fade, because they were never fixed, just covered. Can I say this again? Tomorrow has become your storage unit for unexecuted intentions. That's where dreams go to sit, not die immediately, but slowly fade, because they were never fixed, just covered. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. This is Motivational Monday. Let me tell you something. God never told you to be motivated. Let's anchor this in truth. Let's look at Galatians 6, verse 9. And let us not be weary in well doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. God never commanded motivation. He commanded obedience, faithfulness, and endurance. Because God already knows something. Your feelings will change. So he built your assignment on something stronger than your emotions. Because healing your life requires more than an emotional moment. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Bringing the sounds of heaven 24/7, Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I hope this show is doing something for you. I hope this show is actually motivating you to say, I'm cleaning up, but you're cleaning up as you're listening to the show. You're getting things in order as you're listening to the show. Not saying, oh man, this show is deep. I like it. He's giving us what we need. Man, tomorrow I'm going to use everything he talk about. No. Let me correct you. I want you to start using what I'm talking about on the show right now as you're listening. Use it right now. Stop waiting for tomorrow. You're not even promised tomorrow. But what actually builds results? It ain't waiting on tomorrow. I'm going a little bit deeper here. Your brain is not designed to run on emotions. It's designed to conserve energy. That's why habits matter. Research shows that it takes an average of 66 days to automate behavior. But here's what most people miss. It can take up to 254 days depending on the complexity. So what does that mean? You quitting after a week has never going to work. I'm sorry. You quitting after a week was never going to work. Your brain builds patterns through repetition. Cue, continue, reward. Cue, continue, reward. And every time you repeat something, you strengthen a neural pathway. That's why disciplined people look natural. They're not natural. They're just neurologically trained. That's real change, not a cover-up. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. Stop chasing feelings. Start building systems. Let's shift your thinking. People ask, how do I stay motivated? That's the wrong question. The real question is, what systems will carry me when I don't feel like it? Because systems remove decision fatigue. Research shows people with structured if-then plans are 2 to 3 times more likely to execute consistently. Why? Because they don't debate. They respond. That's how you fix the problem, not cover it. Stop debating with yourself. Put a system in place so that you can respond to the problem, that you can respond to something that comes up. Don't put it behind. Put a system in place so that you can handle it. A Band-Aid, a motivation. A Band-Aid of motivation can't heal what you refuse to fix. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. Let me shift your identity. Let's have an identity shift. This is the real breakthrough right here. Behavior follows identity. And again, I'm big on research. Research proves when actions are tied to identity, they become more consistent under pressure. So instead of saying, I am trying to be consistent, you should say, I am a disciplined person. Now you don't negotiate, you align. Because you're no longer trying to patch behavior. You are transforming identity. You speak yourself into alignment, and you do. How you operate becomes your identity. Because if people see you inconsistency, that's how they identify you. If people see, oh, that's the person I'm going to call because I know he or she is going to get it done, that's your identity. See, what you see in the mirror to yourself, you can tell yourself something all day long, but you don't live in this world by yourself. God is using you to help people, to be part of people's lives. But if you're not lined up to God's will and lined up to his identity, because his identity is consistency. He's a man, he should not lie. And the Bible said faith without works is dead. And belief, you got to believe. So if that's not you, if you're not walking in what God created, people are going to identify you as inconsistency, as somebody I can't call that person. They're going to identify you as somebody they can't trust. Change your mindset, change your identity, change what you say, change how you think. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown. There is a cost of misusing motivation. Let's talk about the cost for real. Motivation creates dopamine spikes, but every spike creates a drop below baseline. So now you don't just lose momentum, you feel drained. That's why people say, I was on fire last week. Now I don't feel it. That's not random, people. That's biology. Add inconsistent efforts to that, and now you create stress cycles in your body. That's why inconsistency leads to burnout. Because what you refuse to fix, you keep feeling. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown. Let's talk about system versus goals. Yeah, let's have some clarity here. Let's make this simple. Goals tell you where you want to go. Systems determine if you get there. Winners and losers both have goals, but only one group has systems. And you know which group that is. I don't have to tell you, but I'm gonna tell you anyway. It's the winners. Your brain is a prediction machine. When your life has no structure, it creates mental resistance. That's why chaos feels exhausting. Systems bring order. Order produces results. I'm gonna say that again. Systems brings order. Order produces results. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
This is the Afternoon Praise. Hey, if you got a prayer request, hit us up on the prayer request line on Wave Radio. We got you. And again, we appreciate you trusting us over your prayer request to pray for you. And again, this assignment isn't light. We don't take this lightly. So thank you again for your trust and for sending your prayer request in. Just keep sending them in and we will keep praying. But let's talk about practical execution. Here's what we're doing starting today. We're going to identify one behavior, attach it to a fixed time, if then, and build a loop. Here go the loop. Cue, which is the trigger. Routine, which is the action. Reward, which is the reinforcement. And then we're going to track it daily. Commit to at least 66 days. Remove emotions from the decision. You are not chasing motivation anymore. You are building a system that actually fixes what's been broken. Let me give you this plan one more time. And if you missed it, you can go back and listen to the show. Minus the music. It's all there. But let me give you the plan one more time. Starting today, right now, this moment, this is what I need you to do. Identify one behavior. Attach it to a fixed time. Build the loop. Here's your loop. Cue, which is the trigger. Routine, which is the action. Reward is the reinforcement. Track it daily. Commit to at least 66 days to work on this behavior, fixing this behavior, taking the Band-Aid off, letting it heal from the inside out. Because that's how healing is. Healing is from the inside out. It's not from the outside in. So on the outside, it is a scab there, but that scab is to protect it while it's healing from the inside. Commit to at least 66 days to fix the problem. Remove emotions from the decisions. I know, man, this get me by. Man, this ain't easy. Move those emotions away. Because think about it. If Jesus would have operated in his emotions on how he felt, we wouldn't have had Resurrection Sunday. You know, he wanted to give up that cup, but it was not his will. He said, thy will. It was God's will. So you got to remove emotions from your healing process. You're not chasing motivation anymore. You are building a system that actually fixes what's been broken. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
This is the Afternoon Praise. Hey, check yourself honestly. Check yourself honestly. Ask yourself honestly, am I building a life or restarting one? Am I disciplined or just motivated sometimes? Do I have a system or just intentions? Because your answer will reveal your reality. And you can't heal if you don't know your reality. You have to know what the sickness is before you can diagnose. And you can pick the right cure for what the problem is. See, doctors just don't give you a cure. They look, they run tests. They identify what the problem is. They diagnose the problem, and then they give the solution to heal it. And the same thing for you. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself. Because your answer will reveal your reality. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise, and it is Motivational Monday. But let me give you some encouragement. Can I give you some encouragement? Because I know the show probably making you feel like, man, what have I been doing all this time? You've been living? You've been trying to figure it out, and there's nothing wrong with that. But let me tell you this, you're not broken. You're not lazy. You've just been trained to depend on the wrong thing. Now, once you shift to discipline, everything stabilizes. This is your stabilizing season. You got it. It's you. Don't look at your past. Turn away from your past. Understand what you did in your past to get the results you got. But don't let that identify who God has created you to be. Man, I'm gonna tell you this again. You're not broken. You're not lazy. You've just been trained to depend on the wrong thing. But once you shift to discipline, everything stabilizes. And you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. Let's have a spiritual reset. See, every time you show up without feeling like it, you are operating in obedience. You're choosing God's process over your emotions. That's growth. That's maturity. Continue to put God first, because God never left you. He's here with you. He's in you through his son, Jesus Christ. You got this. You got this, child of God. You got this. And you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. My time is up, man. We are through another Monday. I love Mondays, y'all. I love it. And I hope that you've come to a place to love Monday, because Monday sets the tone for your week. And guess what? This set the tone for your life. So I want to leave you with this. Let's close this the right way. Motivation isn't a band-aid. It won't heal what you refuse to fix. So stop covering it. Build something that corrects it, because the version of you that wins is not the one who feels the most ready. It's the one who built a system and executed anyway. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. Man, this has been a great Monday. Again, bring it on. That's what I want you to tell the week. Every Sunday, say, bring it on. But I want to leave you with this. I know yesterday was Resurrection Sunday, and we celebrated Jesus rising from the dead. But I want you to know Jesus didn't rise from the dead so that you can just celebrate it on one day, so that you can just dress up, that you can just be part of a church service. No, he did that so that your life can be victorious. You are victorious. So start operating from the posture of victory. Stop trying to get victory. You are already victorious. So I want to say this. Think of the resurrection as something daily that takes place in your life, because you got to have that energy to rise up out of what's trying to keep you down. All right. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown, and I love you. Peace.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wave Radio.